1, 2, 3, 4. Kid-ermission. Oh yeah. Kid-ermission. It's time for Jesus. Kid-ermission. It's time for the Bible. Kid-ermission. Come on close. Yeah. It's funny when you write the song, you forget how to play the song sometimes, but we want to do it for fun, for live, so it's Kid-ermission time.
Yeah, that was fun. That was really fun. I got here this morning, I was sitting in my office, which is way over there in the corner, and it was, all of a sudden I'm hearing the band, and I'm like, are they sound checking to Kid-ermission? They're sound checking to the Kid-ermission song. And I walk in, and they're like rocking out, and there's bass, and I was like, this is the rock version. It's so exciting. Anyway, I didn't know at that point that they were going to play it live. So that was really fun. My name is Elsa. I am one of our Faith Kids directors here at Cheney Faith Center. And I'm really glad to be here with all of you today. If you have been following along with us, you know that here in Kid-ermission and then also in our family service, we are working our way through our 77-day Bible reading plan. And we are we just finished the first week in March where we started the New Testament. And we have been learning about the attributes of God through our reading plan. The attributes of God are who he is, what he is like, and who we and what we are not like. We have learned that God is just, God is holy, God is sovereign, he is the creator, he is loving, he is worthy, he's good, and last week we learned that he is almighty. Nothing is too hard for God. That's a lot of attributes that we've been studying. We've been working our way through our reading plan and reading in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and there are even more attributes of God for us to discover. We are going to talk about one more that we read this past week, which we started reading in letters that Paul was writing. Paul, you remember, had a major conversion from someone who was persecuting and killing Christians to someone who was a Christian himself and advancing the gospel. He was writing letters to those he was teaching, and one of those letters was to the people that lived in Thessalonica. They were called Thessalonians, kind of like we're called Washingtonians, because we live in Washington. And he wrote the letter to the Thessalonians. He wrote multiple letters to the Thessalonians, but in the first one that we find our next attribute of God. It's at the very end of 1 Thessalonians. And it is kind of one of those things that, you know, when your mom is you're getting out of the car or something and your mom's saying, and don't forget, be nice, and make sure you wash your hands or something like that. It's it's like one of those important things. Don't forget. And so that is what Paul is doing right here at the end of 1 Thessalonians in chapter 5. You can read it with me. We're going to read verses 23 and 24. Now may the God of peace himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit and soul and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. He who calls you is faithful. He will surely do it. Did you catch it? What was that attribute of God? Yes, God is faithful. And this means that God always does what he says he will do. Always. He keeps his word. When God makes a promise, he does it. Faithful doesn't mean full of faith. Faithful is more like worthy of faith, deserving of putting faith in. We can trust God. We can put our faith in God. We know that he will always do what he says he'll do. And you're probably like, well, how do I know God is faithful? He did it over and over and over again in the Bible, which we have been reading. God says he will do something, we see him do it. He says he will do something, we read he did it. And we can think of some of those that we've read in Genesis, when he told Abraham that he would have descendants as many as the stars, and he has billions of descendants. Or when he told Jacob that he would be blessed even though he was the youngest, and he received God's blessing. Or when he told Joseph in his dream that his brothers would bow down to him, and they came in a time of famine and did. God always does what he says he will do because God is faithful. Gravity reminds me that God is faithful. And you might be thinking, gravity? You want to know how? Well, you see, gravity always pulls things down. Always. Always. Yep. Every time. Every time I let go, it pulls down. Every time. This is like God and his faithfulness. Every time he says he will do it, he does it. Every time. We can trust, we can depend that gravity, it will fall down every time. And we can trust and we can depend on God that every time he says he will do something, he will do it. Sometimes, though, we don't trust him. We don't believe that he is faithful. And sometimes God's people in the Bible, they didn't believe God either. They thought that God was not faithful. Like that time when the Israelites, they were freed from Pharaoh, and God said, I'm going to set you free. And they got away, and then they saw Pharaoh coming, and they said, God's not faithful. I'm sure of it. But he parted the Red Sea. And then there was that time when, just a little bit after that, God's people said, remember that promised land? I just don't think it's going to be that nice. I don't know about that. And they started whining again. But after a while, they tried. No, God is still faithful, right? They wanted to go their way. Like I'm sure that if I throw this up, it's not going to come down. No. God is faithful every single time. Whether I think he will or not, he is faithful. So, the next time you drop something on purpose or on accident, I'm not going to dump that off. I want you to remember that just like gravity always pulls things down, God is always going to do what he says he will do.